not necessarily like hasn't been a touring comic for decades, but I would think like
right. But I mean,
that's kind of a softball.
Yeah, but I mean, he also is comfortable on a stage, and he's
Sure.
like he's not. That's not going to be a total curveball for him.
Right.
I mean, that's a fucking T-ball. Like it's
right.
It'll be
yeah.
fun. Okay, cool. We'll ask him that to start the show.
Yeah, 1870s, the origin of the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh wow. 1870s. What was the one I was thinking? Maybe like the Christian Scientist might have been started by.
I think that was a woman. Mark Twain absolutely fucking hated her. He wrote an entire book about it.
I mean, like in hindsight,
I have it.
All these people, really, what's it called? Do you remember off the top of your head?
Christian Science, I think. Hold on, what's that?
Okay, Mark Twain, huge fan of Muscatine, Iowa. If you've listened to Hunk, you've heard that he saw a sunset there or a sunrise. And he says there isn't a prettier sunrise in the world than the sunrise in Muscatine, Iowa. And so everybody in Iowa or Muscatine just swears that they live in like the best place on earth because old Mark Twain spent one day there. If I remember the story right from Brido telling it, it's that Mark Twain's brother might have lived there and been a newspaper editor. I don't recall. Oh, good timing, Alan. I was running out of.
It must be in a box.
Oh, that's all right. I was running out of facts about Muscatine, Iowa. So.
Oh, I came in just in time.
Yeah.
I did find Dawkins and Jack. Oh, I loaned you this book. You read this in Yosemite once.
Let me see. Yes. Yeah. It's all beat up from being in a backpack. I am sorry for that.
You got Sart.
Huh?
Sart.
How do you say that?
Sart.
How do you spell it? Hey, I had that book. That was actually the one I read right at the base of Half Dome. Right
nice.
Before I timed that shit.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I've got the God Delusion somewhere, but I guess it's not on my shelf.
I have that Mark Twain book. I just don't know where it is.
Yeah. Too many books. These are the books, people.
These are the books.
What do you say while we're waiting for them? I play some of these show opens I've never played before.
Yeah.
Okay, this one says it would have been a how about that? Share this, and here we go.
Delicious looking dick from sorry about that. Delicious looking dish from Rick there.
I mean, I understand.
Oh yeah, Alan does understand. There's no way this is gonna play. I normally have to reset the soundboard, but just in case, it would be really fucking cool if it doesn't play. But you know what? I'll reset it that way. Once the show's live, we can have Alan saying that's a beautiful cock. James promised to send me all the clips he made, but he didn't have time yet. So
okay.
Maybe he forgets.
We are going a day early, so
yeah, it's gonna be nice not getting off the show and immediately editing.
Yeah.
I think I have something for you here. Now that I think about it, now that I'm looking at it, get out of here. Humans are not fucking dogs for a reason. I might have clipped a few of these that I noticed. We've got some advice for. Oh, this is here's some advice from Michael Cohen.
It's time to wake up, stupid.
I should set this alarm clock.
It's time to wake up, stupid.
That's a nice blue collar alarm clock.
That's nice. I like it. It's almost as good as the Kick song in
in Inception.
Inception,
yeah. I've got some life advice. Oh, here's life advice from an older person, and I keep missing it.
A struggle. Give homeless just a try. I mean, you might adapt to it, and it might be an option. Most people, it's not an option. Most people, it's like, oh, I can't be homeless. Give it a try. It might be an option for you.
So your advice to people going through a struggle is to try to be homeless?
Well, yeah, give it a try. But if you're facing it, go ahead and face it, and then conquer it,
Let's remember who we're taking advice from, people. Advice for people.
Oh, my God.
I mean, don't knock it till you've tried it. You might be good at it.
You might be good at it. That's my favorite lane is these like rich people that live with their parents or rich kids that live with their parents that choose to go live outdoors and film it and put it on Instagram and then charge.
Oh, yeah.
at home. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a whole fucking thing right now. People, and they're like, we need to normalize and stop stigmatizing homelessness. It's like, Jesus Christ. I don't know what this is. I don't know any of these clips.
They want to drive a wooden stake into my heart for pulling my cock out at the Toronto Blue Jays game.
I mean,
All I'm saying is I paid for the ticket. They want
yeah, seems a bit excessive.
He looks like Roger Stone.
Oh, okay.
It does. By the way, it was Mary Baker Eddy is the founder of Christian Science Church, and Twain really did not like her.
Well, wasn't she like autistic?
I don't know. I don't remember that. She died in 1910.
Wow. I like those rooms. They're nice.
The reading rooms?
Yeah.
There's one in downtown Seattle, like
Oh yeah.
in the heart of downtown Seattle, like nice real estate. I'm like, how did they get this place? Anyway.
Greg just sent something in the group chat that says, "I'll see your Iran Contra and raise you an Iran junta." Oh, yeah. Did you see that story about the Yakuza? So there's Mr. Yakuza. I don't know.
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
So authorities have charged Japanese Yakuza leader, and then they say his Japanese name, with conspiring with a network of associates to traffic nuclear materials.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I read the write-up on this. It's actually as bad as it sounds.
No kidding.
Yeah, so he was like, he basically proved that he had nuclear
materials
that would, and like plutonium, and that he could provide up to like 5 tons of it, I think.
Shit.
Which seems like a lot.
Seems like a lot.
Yeah. So maybe that's why Iran's 12 days away from nuclear. Oh, sorry, that was the other side of it. He was willing to sell it to Iran.
Oh.
Yeah, they did a sting where a guy, a DEA agent, pretended to be an Iranian general, which, like, I mean, call me old-fashioned, or that seems a little old-fashioned, right? Like, how are you just pretending to be someone in an age where everyone's like Googleable?
I just imagine him wearing the Pink Panther. I was thinking the Pink Panther, like those disguises when he puts the mustache on. Yeah. Like, I'm Iranian general.
Yeah.
Someone use nuclear weapons.
Hello, I would like 1 nuclear weapons, please.
I mean, don't fuck with the Yakuza though, man. Jeez.
Right. Yeah, that's
last guys I want to have in nukes.
Part of why I didn't want to say any names into it.
Right.
It's like talking about Marvin Harrison. Like, who? Never heard of him.
Never heard of him.
I'll talk about real G's in the street, man. Like, nope.
Moving silence like lasagna.
That's one of my favorite things when people are like, because Marvin Harrison's son played for Ohio State, and so there'd be like people commenting about Marvin Harrison all the time, and I would just go, "Who's that?" Like, you don't know who Hall of Fame wide receiver. They rip off all the stats. I'm like, you don't get it. And it was always like 2 people that would be like, "Man, I've never heard of him either. That's weird." Some people, it's worth it for that one table.
Right.
You want to do one more?
Sure.
Okay. I don't understand why this keeps coming up so much.
Israel should be dissolved. I don't think it has a right to exist.
And guys with what name pound it the best?
Did we play this one?
I don't think so. I don't remember.
I don't know. I think girls pound it the best, honestly.
Really? Or do you like pegging or just scissoring?
I mean, if you want to peg, then peg, you know?
How many girl and girls end and have some kind of strap on?
I mean, I don't know if I can put a number on it, but I'd say a large majority. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
5?
He will strap it on and
Any tips for an aspiring Peggy?
You want to take a drag?
Patience and lube. Israel should be
Oh my God. This is just for the Patreon.
Patience and lube.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah,
That's a good tattoo.
That's peace and love.
Yes.
Was it Paul McCartney would always say peace and love?
Peace and love.
Oh,
Patience and lube.
Yeah, hold on, I should write that down somewhere. Oh, how about sheets I have right here? Okay, any minute now he'll be here.
Live, laugh, love. Patience and lube.
Oh, what would the third one be on that?
Oh.
patience, lube, and love.
Patience, libations, and lube.
There you go.
There you go.
I'm gonna write that down somewhere. Hold on.
I mean, got to get to fifth margarita somehow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what libations means.
Mm. All right, get those zip zap zops in,
Oh yeah.
Yes, and
okay, we got the oil spill, we got minute work. Comedy. Oh, I think we'll end with this. Hey, Uriah.
Yo, Uriah joins us. How's it going, buddy?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Hey, great.
Hear you sound good.
Fantastic.
Let me kill this presentation. We were just killing time showing each other videos.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we're just having some fun,
I need to move the. I gotta move my window up closer to the. All right. Well, I'm gonna be looking down here the whole time because
your background looks cool, Uriah. I like it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It smelled of chemicals for a very long time. I was just dizzy.
Oh no.
Off gassing.
Yeah.
Nice. Those neon paints are pretty.
I like that it's real. Like, in the age of Zoom backgrounds, I think that's there's something nice to have something tangible like that. I mean that.
Yeah.
Not just a green screen.
Is there some intention behind that, or is it just a cool thing you had?
I love like neo-noir, like synthwave type stuff.
Yeah.
So it's basically my whole wall. So it's a very cheap way to have like a nice room when I move so much where I can't like customize it or care about it.
Yep.
Right. Did you painted that yourself?
No, it's a stock. It's a Shutterstock image.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Got out a free trial. I just free trial after free trial.
Nice.
Collect all the box caps, and then eventually you get there.
Well, hey, if you're ready, we've kind of been chatting with each other. I'm kind of warmed up enough, I think, to talk to people. I think I've had about 2/3 of my girlfriend's White Claw. I had to say it's my girlfriend's White Claw. I couldn't just be, I ran out of beer. I stopped at the beer store on the way home, and they were out of good beer, and she was out of White Claws, so I got her a case of White Claws, and she hates the lemon ones, so I'll drink those.
You're falling on a grenade. Here's what's happening.
Right. Between that and the box of wine, I think I'll do just fine.
You'll be all right. You'll be just fine.
So to start things off, just a fair warning. I do a live little intro. It's obnoxious and very loud, so I apologize in advance. That'll be the only time that I do something like that, I think. That's the only plan. But I like to do the little intro live. But prior to that, we always do like sort of like a non sequitur like question or like a little one-liner type joke. And I'm remembering that you have a history doing one-liner comedy. We never do this to comics. I apologize for it, but it would kind of be perfect to open the show if you'd be willing to, just one of your favorite one-liners in a moment. I'll give you a chance to think about it, but before chance to say no. You're like, I came here for cult talk. I don't want to do one-liners.
I miss doing one-liners, so yeah, no, I'm right.
Oh,
yeah.
cool. Awesome.
All right. So before that, I wanted to ask you. So you live in LA now, right?
Yes.
How long have you been in LA?
I've been in LA just about 2 years now.
Okay. So long enough that if he's still alive, I'm sure you've seen him at shows. Do you remember the name of the comic that he's the old guy? He looks like he's been just doing it forever. He goes, "These are the jokes, people. These are the jokes." It's like a skinny older dude. He dresses like he's still doing 90s, stand up with a brick wall behind him.
And he does one-liners, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and what keeps the show going, like when people are sort of chuckling and not quite laughing, he's like, "These are the jokes, people. These are the jokes."
I think I see him when I go to Flappers.
Yeah,
he's always at Flappers.
Him there and at Ice House, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sort of like in a little bit over there. Okay. It's good to hear that you, as far as you know, he's still around.
Yes.
Good to know.
Good to know.
Okay. Yeah. No further ado. I'm gonna hit a button whenever we start the show. But do you have like a favorite one-liner or two?
I'm ready. Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready to
go for it.
All right. I got two parents. One of them knows who I am. The other one's proud of me.
That's
Don't let me in this damn house.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. All right, you ready?
I am ready. Are you recording?
Yes. All right. Well, you want to start a show?
Let's start a show.
That podcast is filling your head with garbage.
No offense taken there.
Well, it sounds like none taken. To the Friday interview episode of Not Taken, where every week me and Alan do headlines together, but not every week. Sometimes we do an interview with questions for you. Because this doesn't work when we do interviews. I listen to 13 hours of podcast a day, and Alan watches 3 hours of cable news, so you don't have to. We're taking a sledgehammer to culture war. What? None of that works in the interview show. We have a guest for you today. We will introduce him shortly. I'll introduce you shortly, sir. But before we do that, just a little bit of work for us. We have a site where you can buy shirts like our None Taken branded shirts and other things there, hats and stuff. It's at trumpgags.com. Trumpgags.com is the redirect site that takes you to a very obscure Teespring link that I can't remember. Alan, can you do other plugs?
Yes, I can. So actually, fungiblenuntakens.com is for our merch store. Trump Gags is for our Patreon.
Damn it.
Trump Gags for our Patreon. We got unedited video over there for y'all. Also, support the people that support us. Slick It's Digital for all your SEO and marketing needs. SlickIt'sDigital.com. Welcome to the show, everybody. Happy Friday.
Yeah, weekend's here. Grab a can of White Claw. We have a guest for you today. We have Uriah Wesman, Survivor. We'll go Survivor. Man has lived through 3 cults. And that doesn't include comedy. So
it's almost 4.
Yes, almost 4. There's my Taylor Swift laugh for the episode. Uriah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here. And you know what? It actually could be 4 to 5 because I was in the cryptocurrency cult during the pandemic.
Definitely one.
Yeah.
Dogecoin. Elon Musk is the leader of that.
Yes.
I invested early and did not sell. I could have made a lot of money.
Is Doge worth anything now, though? It's got to still be okay.
I don't like to check.
I don't like to check either.
Yeah.
For the first time, my coin that I got into, because recognize. My coin I got into was called Cardano. And just yesterday, I was like, you know what? At one point, it was like $2.50, and I would have like more than tripled what I made. And I looked, and it was at like 60 cents. I'm like, well, you know what? I bought it at like 34. That's pretty good. Also,
not bad.
34 times 3 is not $2, but whatever. Welcome, Alan. Yeah, you do good at setting up the interviews. Do you mind? Here's the wheel.
Yeah, so welcome, bud. We heard you on Hunk. I know you've been working with him at the Lyric down there. And you have an upcoming one-man show, which we'll talk about later. But let's talk about like what brought you here. So, like, where are you from, and how has those places that you're from impacted the story that you're going to tell here for us today?
For sure, yeah. It's even just the question where you're from is like very difficult for me to
loaded question, yeah.
Because it's like I can say I'm from Montana, but I moved around so much that I almost have to then explain it to someone when I meet someone. Then I can always see their eyes start to roll. It's like, we didn't want your whole life story. We're just making small talk.
I'm the same way. I was born in Colorado. I moved to San Diego. I went up to the Bay Area. Then I moved to Detroit. Then I was in LA, and now I'm in Nashville. It's like, in Nashville, I just cut out all of the California talk. I'm like, I'm from Colorado. I also lived in Detroit. Please like me.
Well, we do want your origin story, though. So tell us all the places. Where'd you begin? Where'd you bounce around to, etc.?
So birthplace would be Livingston, Montana. I assume no one knows where Livingston, Montana is. So that is in the corner of Montana, right if you're going towards Yellowstone National Park.
Okay.
And even when I think about that now, my education was so bad because of how much we moved. I'm not even sure I know where it is.
Geography, not your strong point. Okay.
No. So then I was there for a bit. Till about, so age is like kind of difficult. I can go more by like grades in school because I kind of remember easier that way.
Sure.
So I went from there all the way to Santa Barbara, California, which is an incredibly beautiful place. It's odd because I moved around a lot, but we never really lived in like really horrible places.
Yeah.
So I feel
That's
like sometimes
beautiful.
I'm bragging, but none of it was on what I wanted to do, especially so young, having to keep making friends.
Right.
Right. What was the culture shock going from Montana to Santa Barbara like? I imagine that's a very different world.
I loved it. So
Yeah.
this would be kind of Montana was like whatever. We didn't really vibe with people because because people, if they knew us, knew that we were part of the cult, and we didn't like hunting. We're vegetarians, so all this kind of stuff like didn't jive with early 2000s, 90s Montana.
Right.
Now,
Sure.
now it's a little bit different.
With the people moving and stuff.
With the yes.
Yeah.
But back
Okay.
then, definitely you weren't fitting in.
Yeah, no.
Right.
And then Santa Barbara was just nice because we were kind of by the ocean, but we were only there for maybe a few months until we moved from Santa Barbara all the way to North Carolina. And that's really when things were just totally different.
Okay.
Yeah, that's completely across the country. Like
Coastal North Carolina or like Appalachia?
Harry, which would be like an hour or so outside of Raleigh, so not coastal.
One of our best listener lives in Appalachian, North Carolina. He knows it. You said Harry?
Harry.
With an H.
With a C.
Oh, Harry. Okay.
of course.
Yeah.
He'll know it.
Okay.
He'll know it.
So it did. So did the cult intersection begin earlier? Well,
In Montana, it started. Is that where it all started?
Yes. So going back before my birth, the Church Universal and Triumphant was the name of the cult, and it was very big. It was a Christian fundamentalist and New Age. So basically what New Age is it just steals from a bunch of different religions and just makes it a lot easier to recruit. Because if you're every religion, everyone's going to identify with it a little bit.
Sure. Yes.
And my parents had an arranged marriage, essentially. The leader of the cult would tell other people that they were twin flames, which is the cult version of soulmates, and then they would get together and have kids. And funny enough, I was actually doing a show in Santa Barbara where afterwards people came up to me and said the same exact thing happened with their sister.
Oh wow.
Which isn't a story I actually like comfort in. I know, there's more of us. I don't want to. I don't find comfort in it. It's different. Like it's a sports fan, right? Because if you're a real sports fan, you're in a cult of that because you'll ignore the actual facts of the reality that your team is probably not going to win.
Right.
So if I meet another like hockey fan, that's same. I like that, but I don't want to meet someone else that was in that cult as well.
Yeah, it's not quite the same. Not quite the same.
Like,
so you said like New Age type stuff. So we're talking like crystals and like woo
Or like
the
Buddhism.
secret type stuff, like manifest stuff into the world kind of thing.
Yes. So one central thing that they would have is an altar. So on the altar would be like a picture of ascended master, which is someone who's ascended to heaven. So that would be like Buddha, Jesus, Christopher Columbus.
I'm sorry, what?
Interestingly, okay.
They loved Christopher Columbus.
I mean, he's on the Mount Rushmore.
It's an Italian cult.
I can't. I try to understand it to try to think why my parents would think about this and think that this would be real. But just on top of this, they believe that there was fallen angels and aliens that have taken human form that are fighting the good people and the aliens, and you can't tell which is which.
Oh, it's like that movie where you got to wear the glasses with
right.
Wow. Okay. Oh, there's the laugh. We got the laugh. That's the famous laugh we heard about. Okay. Can we back up? I want to talk about like the cults sort of in order, maybe. And it's really tempting to just jump right into that.
Yeah.
I think we wanted to ask you a little bit first, like, how did your parents meet? What's your parents' story in relation to what we're here to talk about?
Were they educated at all? Did they go to college or?
And did they meet before the cult, or did they meet as? Because I'm guessing you're second generation cult here.
Essentially, other than the arranged marriage stuff, they met because they were both in it.
Okay.
The first cult had a chapter in Santa Barbara, which is how my mom got in it. And then my dad, how he ended up in Montana from Vancouver, Canada, where he was born, I have no idea. My parents have been very much silent about their childhoods. I couldn't for the longest time even ask my mom because later on in life she developed Alzheimer's and now she passed away. So I can't get any information from her. And then my dad is like, whatever he says, I don't know what to believe.
Right.
Yeah, I take it with a grain of salt. Is he still part of the cult or a cult or?
He's in the QAnon Trump stuff.
Oh, geez, he graduated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. He recently followed me on Instagram, which was kind of my safe haven from him because he's on Facebook and I don't use Facebook anymore. But he followed me with the handle, the new paradigm shift.
Oh boy.
So I don't know what it is. I think a lot of it is, especially now, cults they used to be you would have to go out in the middle of the woods and meet people. Now they're online. Now it's a much dangerous because they're online. I think a part of my dad wants to be one of those podcaster cult guys and have his own following.
Oh,
right. But you can sort of online, you can hide behind an avatar, right? And you don't have to be a real person in real world. So it's much easier to be in that sort of movie.
On our Wednesday show, we have a segment where we would play clips like your dad, I think.
Yeah, probably.
That's send them our way if you see any funny ones. Before we get too far into this, can you define? I think a lot of people struggle to define what a cult is because people will be like, well, any religion could be a cult, and like I don't know. Do you have a definition that comes to mind? Is this something you've answered before?
I think the easiest way to say it is a cult is when you're following a specific person wrapped around the ideology, but if everything that person says you're taking as the word and you can't critique that or have any sort of way to talk about it, that's the cult. When you can't have that critical thinking and you can't change your mind, especially when it comes to actually changing the words. Like that's why they changed soulmates to twin flames. They create this own sort of almost like club where you feel special and you're in it, and people that aren't in it, they just don't get it. They're not a part of it. So it's an easier way to remove that person from the world and into that new reality. And I think that's what a cult is.
It's newspeak. You create a new vocabulary, and then that's just another way that you isolate people from the outside world. And then if they question the faith or the dogma or what this person said, then clearly they've lost it, right? Is that kind of how that works?
Yes. And then I think the other element is, when we prove when we prove that we're right, you're going to be sorry. There's that element of like, and you see that everywhere. I think you see it a lot when you see that a lot when it comes to politics now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say your dad being a QAnon guy makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Just go on.
And then it's like, then if you actually try to discuss things with someone else, the reason why I think it pushes them further into the cult is because you're challenging the very reality that they believe in.
Right.
So if you are saying something that's going to destroy the very world that they live in, they can't even fathom that. And that's why it's easier to just, they're wrong, I'm right, and that there's no dialogue.
Yeah, that's where you get the confirmation bias, essentially. Would you how old do you think you were when you realized, hey, this isn't normal? Like I'm participating in a cult, or did you actually have that feeling at some point?
Yes. So there's one kind of big thing that happened where it's not something I want to discuss on a podcast.
Okay.
So the other thing
does it come up in your one-man show? Because now would be a good time to plug it.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes,
all right, that's fine.
And what's it called?
It's called 3 Cults Walk Into a Bar.
Hell yeah.
Where can you get tickets for that?
Eventbrite. So far, I only have one show. I'll probably add more. It's at the Lyric Hyperion Theater in Silver Lake, LA.
Awesome.
May 11th, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, okay, please go on.
Yes,
I'm a terrible interrupter. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine.
Okay. All right.
So this will get into the second cult. The second one was essentially an offshoot of the first one once the leader died in the mid-2000s.
Were they not supposed to die?
Yeah. Well, they ascended. They said they ascended.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That was Miss Prophet, right?
Yes. Even though the son of her has said that she admitted that it was all a lie all that kind of stuff.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
He said she used to say that angels would be her secretary and do jobs for her.
Oh, wow.
They would think that all you would have to do is ask angels for help. They can help you fix a car, find your keys, all that kind of stuff.
That seems a bit narcissistic. I don't know. Just a little bit. Little bits.
Not cure cancer. Where's
Right.
my keys?
Where's my
keys?
Important things. We got priorities out here.
Yeah, cancer is to teach us a lesson, and it's not about man and her sins. Was she the one with the toes?
Yes.
So her pinky toes were on top of the middle finger toes.
One of them was the few times I was so young, I would have been so young when I had any interaction with her. I think it's because everyone idolized her. I just remember everything with her, but I was never I never had a comfort in it. I had a weary aspect to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've read some stuff about her. I guess she was very charming and charismatic, but that was, I mean, the height of her powers are more like 70s, 80s, right? And you weren't there until 90s, 2000s, right? So she was already a bit past her prime. I know you don't want to talk about when you knew you were in a cult. Did you ever have like a crisis of faith? I'm asking these questions because I didn't necessarily, I wouldn't say I grew up in a cult. I would. Okay, maybe. I would say cult adjacent. But there are certain aspects to cults like you talk about. One of them that I think is common is excommunication. So if somebody no longer is willing to drink the Kool-Aid, the entire group shuns them. And there's a real power to that because people, especially once there's that in-group, out-group type thing, they're divided from the rest of society, perhaps the rest of their family. This becomes their entire environment. And so to risk losing all of that because you have a crisis of faith can be one of the most difficult things to go through, I would imagine. Did you have a moment like that, even if you don't want to talk about it?
Yes. So I have another. So in the second cult that ended up being the guy was in it. His name's David Christopher Lewis. Again, there's Elizabeth Clare Prophet. Then the husband of the first cult, Mark Lyle Prophet. There's very much a trend of 3 names.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 names, 3 cults. It's like
we've seen
that
stuff
before.
Like that.
And stuff like that would actually like numerology and stuff my mom was into, and it's very easy to be like, especially when I was writing out my show, just seeing like numbers aligning. But that's just regular patterns that just happen. But there was
and we're pattern recognizing machines, so you see, yeah.
So basically, the second cult, the Heart Center, they would travel around to places and decree and pray to get rid of demons in the area.
Like you do.
Can we come back to decreeing later? Because I want to hear that story, but decreeing is a no. Okay.
So we went to Washington, D.C. In the wintertime, and with him, there would be like beings that would speak through him and do dictations. And at this point, it was Mother Mary, and Mother Mary was going to tell us what came first, the chicken or the egg.
No.
And I was intrigued by that.
Sure.
Yeah. This is high-minded stuff.
Yeah.
And
I mean, how old were you? 8?
Yeah. 8, 9. So the answer was the hen.
It's a cop-out answer.
All right.
Yeah.
It's also compliments to the rooster, making sure the hen came first. Yeah.
I think it was saying something about feminism. Who knows? But
had a virgin birth of the chicken, perhaps.
Yeah. But I remember at this moment, everyone was like, "Whoa!" And I was like, "No." And I was mad about it because these things would last forever. It would be like 2 hours. I would have no idea how long this guy's just going to talk for. And at the beginning, he would just sit there in silence. And everyone would just wait. And I would always have this fear of like farting or sneezing. So I just hated it. I hate it. Anytime it's silent, I need to make a noise. I need to say something.
Oh, okay.
Which, who knows, maybe that led to me wanting to be the class clown, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it was that moment and how everyone thought that was really nothing. I'm like, nothing. There's, I got nothing from it. And I started thinking more and more that my parents devoted so much time and energy into it. Why is all this bad stuff happening to us all the time?
Mm-hmm.
Like it just didn't make any sense to me.
The math wasn't working.
Right. Well, let's talk about some of that. Sorry, that's. I'm sure you'd love to talk about the bad times, but let's talk about some of that bad stuff. I mean, like,
we can.
The story kind of in order. So the first cult is the Church Universal and Triumphant. You left that at some point. At some point, there was your parents were together, then they got divorced, and then there was custody drama. Does that flow with the first to second cult, or is that coincidental? Or
yes, so. Kind of the only reason why my mom switched to the second one when they split is because my dad was in and stayed in the first one.
Okay.
Oh.
So they kind of run into each other because my mom would be telling us that our dad is a demon.
Jeez.
Oh.
And that's why we moved around so much. And what would happen is that when they would kind of, so if my dad visited us, they would always argue and it would throw my mom off and throw everything off. And it kind of like made me actually think that this could be the case, especially because there was times like my dad hit me with a belt, all this kind of stuff. And it made me
think a demon would do.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And then another thing would be is like when we would hang out, when we would every other weekend go and see him, he wouldn't be prepared. So we would have like cereal with water.
Oh, wow.
Oh, jeez.
That's the type of thing a demon would do, right?
Right.
So,
That is, yes.
That's better.
Here's some water for your Cheerios.
Yeah.
A better version of that joke. I'm sorry.
So he had custody on weekends. You would go over there on weekends, you and your sister? Yes?
Yeah, and my younger sister, yeah.
Okay. Your two sisters, right. Okay. How long was that situation going on?
That went on until it would have been grade 4. So 7 or 8, that's when we moved around a bunch. That's when we went from North Carolina back to Montana. And when that happened, normally we get enrolled in school and we find a place to live. But this time we were staying in hotels and stuff. And my mom started telling us that the demons at Livingston, where she would say is the gateway to hell, which is why she wouldn't want to be there, were trying to take us away, which was accurate. My dad was trying to get custody of us and ended up getting emergency custody of us. And we were back in school with him. And then my mom concocted a plan to take us out of the school in the middle of the day and drive us across state lines. So at that moment, we were kidnapped by my mom.
Oh my God.
And just, this was kind of like, we didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, I was saying, did you know that? You probably didn't know that at this point.
No.
Yeah.
And
road trip with mom. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So, but we thought it was still weird because we would just stay in hotels and stuff. So how was all this funded was my uncle in Santa Barbara worked for Raytheon, which was able to just fund all of this.
Wow.
So I would think that would be more along the lines of a demon, a guy who programs missiles and stuff like that. And my dad who builds condos. I mean, it doesn't make sense, but it was the moving around and this constant telling us that our dad is demon, all this kind of stuff at such a young age. And these harsh decrees my mom would do for hours and hours.
So what are the
what's a decree? Explain that.
It's a fast-paced kind of mantra. I don't even know how to explain it. Like,
you don't have that available still, do you? I know when you were, I could have prepped you on that. I apologize.
You know what? I think I might. Let me think. Just bear with me. There's some like funny sound effects that might play as I try to find the degree.
I have a soundboard.
Frustrating. Frustrating.
Yeah.
This shit. Okay, I might not hear this, but this is. Let me know.
That's not it.
That's not it.
No, you're good. You were good. I was playing sounds. I'm done.
Oh, okay. Is this it?
No. Try presenting. So if you go to where's it at?
There's a little arrow pointing.
The arrow pointing up. Yeah, you hit present now.
Right in the middle. Yep.
Oh, that was it?
Yeah, that played briefly.
I am the violet flame in action in me now. I am the violet flame in light alone.
Oh, yeah.
Violet flame in mighty cosmic power. I am the light of God shining every hour.
I can turn it off whenever. Because I can't.
Yeah, no.
blow it up. Yeah. So it's almost like a rhythmic chanting mantra kind of thing.
And it would become very much one, it would get deep inside my brain where it just like stick there like a song, but you would repeat it all because there's so much repetition, it would become addictive as well.
Right.
Sometimes I'll be walking and just start hearing the decrees, and I'm like, well, what is this? Because I don't do them, and they just appear in my brain when I start walking.
Well, because there's like a through line in it of a hum. There's like no, 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 that you're coming back to. Like, and then there's like spikes to that. But like if you're just constantly creating that vibration in your head for a while, it's some sort of like a self-hypnosis, right?
It is. Yeah. And in fact, I think they've done studies on like some of these meditation practices that have shown that it actually like changes your brainwaves, like just listening to that for a period of time. So yeah, that can definitely impact you physiologically. Absolutely. Absolutely. I have a question real quick before we continue on. So all these trips you're taking, you know, from Santa Barbara to South Carolina to Montana to, are you like flying? Are you packing into the station wagon? What's happening?
Doing mantras on the plane?
Southwest? Is that what's going on?
This is we were in a Ford Windstar van.
Nice. Was it blue with the wood panel? Oh, no, that's a caravan. Sorry.
No, just like the ugly, like shit brown type color.
Oh god. Did it have windows at least?
Like in the windows,
you could pop, right? Little pop out windows. Yeah.
And at least not from Montana to Santa Barbara, but from Santa Barbara and to back to North Carolina, we would, and I leave this out because people will think about this more. We had like at least 4 to 5 cats with us in the van.
Oh god.
Did you take them out to pee?
Yeah, no, they probably pissed in the van. There was
a litter box in the back.
There's a litter box. Yeah. There was just a stench of urine, and the way smells are, it will take you right back there.
Yeah.
And that made it even harder because if I don't smell it, I'm going to school smelling like cat piss.
Oh my god! I worked with a lady. When I lived in Detroit, where like she that's how she smelled, and I had to work side by side with her, like flipping boxes for 8 hours. And one day she looked over to me. And like the humor for this probably won't translate, but I'll try. She looks at me like nobody's talking, just silent because just flipping boxes, and then she just goes, "My cat's peed in my boot this morning," and I go, "Those boots?" She's like, "Yeah." Wearing them, like she had a meat tenderizer on the rear dashboard of her car. I don't know why. It was probably for a weapon, but now that I hear it, for safety. But I digress. That's a lot of cats, man. 4 cats in a car. That's too many cats for a car.
That is too many.
Yeah.
Cats.
Were you guys living? Oh, you were living in hotels financed by Raytheon, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And one important thing would be when it's so easy to jump around, but when we're in Montana, post kidnapping, when the custody battle's happening, my mom she believed that that cats are elementals and whatever.
Oh,
so she was very connected to her cat, and one day the cat went missing, and I knew that the cat missing would cause her to get into these like fits of rage that she would be in, where she'd just scream and yell. So that would be one of the only times in my life where I actually prayed and did the decrees. And the cat came back.
Oh
wow.
But I didn't think that was anything. I just, the cat just came
Yeah,
back.
causation, not correlation. Right.
Yeah.
So I have to actually, let me ask you about that. So a lot of times kids in situations, I don't know, similar to this, I don't know if there's any situation similar to this. You have a very unique growing up, but kids in situations like that often like correct for their parents or try to absorb triggers or try to prevent them from, seeing whatever that thing is they know is going to set them off. Did you have that mentality? Were you even aware of it? Do you see it now retrospectively?
Yes. So it took a while for me to get to the point that if I even like heard my mom's voice or decree from the cult or anything like that, it would just like put me in a headspace where I just wasn't okay.
Yeah.
And if I don't talk about my sisters a lot, but my older sister just doesn't remember a thing about the childhood, just complete wash. And then my younger sister was the closest to my mom. She ended up like destroying any photos with me and my dad, all this kind of stuff. And she firmly believes that because she's so still in that same cult stuff, that my mom and dad should have stayed together and my stepmom ruined everything. So
wow.
younger sister in it. Interesting enough, she's the least put together and the only one who graduated high school. Which I don't know how that happens.
That's strange. That is
Yeah.
strange.
Did you
It's
get to
interesting.
see- Sorry.
I was gonna say it's interesting that your younger sister remained connected, whereas your older sister, which you would think would have seen more of it, just completely blocked it out. Like just chose not to remember it almost. That's interesting.
I think I don't know how that happened. I think it's something to do with just like actually being older. She was outside the house more and rebelled a little bit more.
Yeah,
I
perhaps.
went, and that was her outlook, that her way to get out of it. Me, it was very much movies and TV and watching sports. And then my younger sister just stayed in it. I think that's what it was, is that I found an outlet out of it and she just never found that creative outlet out of it.
Right, because you have to find a defense mechanism in that sort of situation, something to protect yourself, right? Some place to go. Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
So, was there much of a difference between the Church Universal and Triumphant, and the Heart Center?
Yes, in a way of seeing. Well, one, they just kind of took whatever the Church Universal was and changed it enough for their decrees to not get sued.
Did you say it already, or do I remember this from Brido's show? That the Heart Center was made by a guy who left. You said that, right? Because she died.
I have said that, all right. But yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
But the difference is, I think the second one was at least in my eyes, much more. I'm using this to go get vacations, because they would go to Greece, they would go to Mexico, they would just travel all these places that would cost money, and the guy wouldn't pay for anything. And I guarantee you was probably flying like first class, all that kind of stuff.
Sure, of course.
So it was so much more. To me, it's like, so you're the new leader, rejected by the other cult, but just saying that, but with no proof to anything. He was by a lake. There's always by a body of water, and then they come and tap them on the shoulder, which it just doesn't make. Just if there is a higher being, why would they use the physical form of another human to just copy the same exact thing again? It just doesn't make any sense.
Right. Yeah, this story hasn't been told. You need to go do it exactly this way.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point. That's why you're not supposed to question the narrative, right? Because that means you've lost your faith. You're not really one of us. If you were one of us, you would just buy it, because clearly that's the dude taking us to the promised land, right? Okay. All right.
I know you kind of said that it was like an amalgamation of like a lot of different religions to sort of catch everyone, but like did they do the like multiple wives things, or did you only had one twin flame? So that makes sense. Did they how were they with like, was music forbidden?
Rock music was forbidden because of the vibrations would send demons to your chakras to steal your light. And that's where I talked about in our podcast, where my mom would use a sword, scrape it down my spine to get rid of the demons.
Yes.
Wait, hold on. Let's slow down a little bit. You kind of glossed over that.
All three of us know about that.
Yeah, but the audience doesn't yet. So like, let's go back. So explain that from the beginning, like that, because that sounds pretty out of pocket when you just say that like that. I mean, how did this happen?
The front part of the sword, or like the side? The pokey end?
So this wouldn't be like a samurai sword where you can like chop someone in half.
No, I'm picturing like Excalibur.
A broadsword. Yeah.
Oh, like I almost want to say the type that Aladdin had.
Oh, more like a machete kind of thing, almost.
Yeah, but it was definitely like would have like
centaur.
Have like a tip. It would look more like designer.
Right. Okay.
A designer sword.
Designer demon sword.
This was bought at a mall in North Carolina.
Yes.
And these they would also swing the swords in like a rotation like that while decreeing, because then they're actually killing the demons.
Oh,
like that VR game where you chop up the fruit.
Yeah, just like that.
Just like that. Okay.
Okay, wait. So the sword. So what would you do with the sword?
Just scrape it down my back. It felt good, but I also thought the little scratches that you feel on your spine, which is why she said you would feel. No, that's where the nerve endings are. That's why we feel the more.
Yeah.
Those would be demons stealing the light, and I thought this was real. And I would think in my bedroom as a kid, I would see like little black. So if you like.
Yeah.
turn the lights off and turn back on, you'll just see like little black dots.
Yeah.
I thought those were demons.
Sure.
Oh wow.
Why wouldn't you raised with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're waiting to be on your back like Thetans.
Yes.
So it was just your demon skincare routine. It was just a nightly
like the opening to American Psycho. Every
yeah, just like exactly like that. Exactly like that.
Okay, so is dancing forbidden?
No, there's dancing, but they would do these songs that were just awful. A lot of clapping, and a lot, which is basically just forms of decrees, but just like very much they loved like the Knights of the Round Table, Freemasons type
I
stuff.
have a note. Sir Lancelot. Is now a good time to jump into that?
Sure.
Okay, there you go. Can you explain why I asked you that?
So what they believed is that if you were on Earth still, it's because you didn't balance your karma in order to ascend to heaven.
Okay.
And Mark Lyle Prophet said he was the second coming of Sir Lancelot.
Okay.
And there used to be a clip. This was on Oprah, but they removed the clip due to copyright violation. And I wish I downloaded it, but that's where it was said. And Sir Lancelot is not real.
I was like, how can you be reincarnated? Hi, I am Huckleberry Finn the Second.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. Like if he would have said King Arthur, people would be like, pretty sure we don't know if that's true or not. He's
Sword
like,
in the
no,
Stone,
Sir Lancelot, a different one. You forgot. Yeah, Sword in the Stone. Yeah, that's where he got the swords from. Good one, Alan.
Yeah, totally makes sense.
Oh.
Wow.
Was there? So in my head, I'm picturing a lot of, no offense, a lot of gullible white people. So I didn't have to say gullible. That was rude. Because I'm gullible in a lot of ways too. Is it better now? I'm picturing a lot of white people. What is like? What is this? Is it a compound? Like what is like? Was there? I feel like religion and racism kind of are like cousins to each other. Was there any aspect of that to it, or were they like, no, we're super open minded? Look, we have an Indian prophet.
Well, my dad once. This was during the NHL lockout, so we were watching basketball. My dad once said to me, Uriah, I like this basketball team because it has the least black guys on it.
Okay.
Celtics. Got it.
That
answers that question.
It's very much. Sorry, Dad. it was very much. I think it was open to everything, but I just think that like. Just the way I think a lot of stuff is white people are always searching for something because they don't have much of a culture, especially in America. That's why they have to borrow from other ones.
Right.
So I think it's less so that it just tends to be, I think it tends to be just more white just because certain demographics already have a religion that they're just born into and part of. And a white person is searching for something. But,
like you said, especially in America, where it's like we're already an amalgamation of all of the different white ancestors that whatever came there.
Sure.
So it's like, no, I like the Norse gods. It's like, well, that's not a universal thing here because we're not in fucking Norway, right? Like, so you end up, going to India or something and living in Tibet.
And so, yes, there was a compound. It was at the Royal Teton Ranch, like about an hour outside of Livingston.
And room and board's covered? I mean, this kind of sounds like a good place to live.
I mean, there were bomb shelters built by volunteers that believed this guy was the second coming of Sir Lancelot. So,
okay, never mind. You got to live with them. Those are your neighbors. Yeah.
And
but here there are some famous people there.
Yes, there was at least one. There was the drummer to Men at Work.
Yes, this is an Australian themed podcast. I'm so glad we worked it into yet another episode.
Just get a Vegemite sandwich.
Yeah, yep.
And that is in Prophet's Daughter, written by the daughter of the cult leader. So that is in it. That is true.
Wow.
That's her memoir that she wrote about.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. So this compound, this ranch, you said it was called Teton Ranch?
Royal Teton Ranch, yeah.
Royal Teton. Like, how often would you visit? What was it like? Were you there all day for the weekend? What was it?
It would be conferences. Sometimes, most of the time, if we did stay there, we'd be staying with kids and stuff.
Okay.
But these conferences would kind of be all inclusive, but it's incredibly long. It's because all it would be is these incredibly long dictations and decrees, just incredibly boring. And the biggest thing that I remember is that like we would do fun stuff. We would go rafting.
Yeah.
But what would happen is before we go rafting, they would do a decree that basically if we die on this raft, then make sure that heaven will send us to heaven. It's like, what do we? There's this constant like anytime we go on the bus, anytime we go in the car, you have to do your quick decrees to make sure. It was this obsession, which a kid should not be thinking about death.
Right.
And when they go in the car, it shouldn't be a constant thing they think about. And it doesn't work then. So if we die on the raft, does that mean that's how he wanted to kill us? That means our prayers didn't work. That means his cult doesn't work.
Right.
It'd be like if there was you had a financial investor and you kept giving him money and he was like, have faith. One day it's like, I gave you millions of dollars.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense that, religion, it's the same thing. You better give them the money. And the cult too would do this thing where 25x today, you put money in the basket, you'll get 25 times the positive karma.
Of course.
I was going to ask you that. How did they make money? Like, was some cults are like automatically give us your PIN number and bank account?
Yeah, sign over everything. Yeah.
Like,
so communicants, which my dad was, you have to give 10% of your earnings to them.
Okay.
So it amassed like a huge following everywhere. Estimated 50,000 members, but the thing is like all this is tax free.
Right.
Like all this money that they're getting, they're not losing any of it. And then if someone's donating money, then they're saving more money because that's tax free. So they just got it from just volunteers and stuff, especially in the 80s and like late 90s when they said the world was going to end. People would take out huge loans. People would be just racking up credit card debt, and they would be like, when the world's good, it's not going to matter.
Yeah. Why worry about it?
And again, it was that trying to, when I'm right, you're wrong. Well, one, you'll be dead and you'll be in a bomb shelter that's going to collapse because it was built by my dad.
Right. So actually, let me ask you about this. So talk about funding. So your mysterious uncle who worked at Raytheon, do you have any idea why he was so generous and willing to fund your family? Like, was he involved with religion as well? Did he just take an interest in your sisters?
Do you feel guilty for creating all those weapons of death?
Yeah. You're trying to atone.
Based on how my mom and my uncle, his brother acts, is I think there was something in their childhood that was incredibly traumatic. My uncle is never been married. I don't know if he's ever been on a date. So I think what he does is he vicariously lives through us. And so he gives money. So what happened too is like my younger sister went to Santa Barbara and was just funded by my uncle, so didn't have to grow those social skills, which I didn't like leaning on my uncle just to give me money. So I didn't do that. And that's how I think I created it. But I think this is all just what I think is that he just lived vicariously by just giving money.
Okay. All right. So you talk about potentially a traumatic event that happened in your mother and your uncle's, childhood. You said they don't really talk too much about their past. So do you have any idea what that was about? Did they grow up in a similar type cult environment? Do you know?
I don't know, but I know alcohol was a factor. I think their dad drank a lot.
Okay.
And the cult was against alcohol because they didn't like how it changed people's behavior, which is accurate. It changes people's behavior drastically, but that they say that's allowing demons to take control, which actually makes sense, but there's no demon. It's just that alcohol makes people aggressive. It's just, that's what happens. So
country
that's
music.
probably and then they listen to rock music and then there you go.
Right. Okay. Makes sense.
So was this in my head? Like, there's two types of cults. There's like the guys that say Hare Krishna down in West Covina, and then there's the David Koresh's of the world. Were there guns in the compound? Was there anything like that?
Yes.
Because they had to be afraid of the feds, or I will shut up. You said that.
They had armored personnel carrier.
Oh.
Church members were arrested for trying to transport weapons $120,000 worth of weapons across state lines. And this is 80s and 90s. That's a lot of weapons.
That's a lot of weapons. Yeah.
This is pre-machine gun ban too, so these were real weapons. This wasn't
Yeah.
like a bunch of
Some cartel shit happening. Yeah.
And it could have been so close to, because the ATF was watching them. The National Guard basically were thinking that when they would do these drills, that the world was going to end and everyone would go in the bomb shelters.
Yeah.
That they would not come out, and they would have all these weapons. No one knows how many guns they have, but she was very much, what this cult did is it mixed a lot of politics and religion and really mixed that into stuff. So the cornerstones of that was anti-Russia, so the then Soviet Union, and abortion. That was very much, it was it was almost like a militarization of religion, which I think we're seeing a lot today with Christian nationalism.
Yeah.
Via politics. It's the mixture of two things, which to me, it's like, if you're mixing a reality that other people don't believe in religion to influence government, I don't think democracy can exist like that.
Yeah, because it doesn't have, it's not really a porcupine, and it doesn't have a good defense to that.
It doesn't have the guardrails to deal with that sort of. Yeah.
What then that reminds me too, like, you're not going to be able to persuade any of those people out of it. Is it like Aristotle quote where he's like, people will resent you for the effort it takes them to have their mind changed anyway. So like, even if you did change their mind, they'd be like, yeah, but fuck you for that. I hated that.
Right.
Have you heard, hearing you say that and compare it to kind of our moment now, one, they kind of sound like they're ahead of their time. Two, have you heard from people, like, you must have had a lot of conversations outside of showbiz or anything like that, talking to people that have gone through something similar or maybe are going through something similar. Like, have you had any success turning people? Isn't quite the question I want to ask, but has any of that borne fruit, or is it like you're saying people are just, you can't talk to them?
So when it comes to like my upbringing of cults and stuff, I kind of hid that even from my serious relationships I was in. It's not something I was at all comfortable talking about or wanting to relive at all. So it's not till actually now that I've actually had these conversations with people. Now,
has that been cathartic for you?
Yes, because one thing is it's getting easier and easier to talk about. And I think also there's a reason why cults are one of the biggest things that you can watch right now, because it's so relatable. People have now came up to me. Even there's someone who goes to my open mic who's been in Scientology for 20 years, but can still like hear my stuff and not think about
connect the dots. Yeah,
right.
And but there's other people that, because I think what happens is when you go through traumatic experiences in your life, the easiest and most convenient thing is religion. Therapist, it's expensive, and what happens is everyone kind of goes through those experiences in their life, and then they get in the cults and they feel better, and then everything kind of goes back downhill from there. And that's where I have had discussions with people and talked with people that either been in cults or are still kind of in them. And what I realized with my humor, my comedy, is I always wanted my comedy to say something, even though I used to do a lot of one-liners, which is kind of why I don't like crowd work. It's like, what's the point here? I really think comedians should be, they don't have to be, but some sort of like talking about the systemic jest, the world, and be the critique of that, because then you can use humor as that gap to bridge. Because if you're able to make something funny and make it so someone can hear it, then maybe you could change people's minds, but you can't just tell them this is what it is. And it sucks because I don't see that happening right now for comedy. I see the biggest comedians want to make trans jokes. That's the most important thing that we need to talk about. It's ridiculous to me.
Or crowd work,
or plus an hour worth of crowd work. Yeah. I mean, ideally, art, which comedy is an art, should hold a mirror up to society, to culture, right? And then that's how you make fun of it, and that's how you poke holes in it, and that's how you change the narrative. Let me ask you about your younger sister. You said she's still a part of cult life, I guess. Yes,
more or less. It's she would say basically what I think. She just completely recreated her childhood, had kids, lots of kids, lost the kids in the custody thing.
Oh no.
To a schizophrenic, crazy guy, which somehow it's weird how there's actually people that seem like they are demons that get invited into our life that actually create chaos, and we're not like, because this guy. So this kind of ties into it. Is my younger sister? I don't talk to her, and one of the biggest worry thing in my life would be is that people find out about my story and then want to try to involve me with my family. So when I started comedy, I quit my job to go on an open mic comedy tour. And because my car broke down, I was kind of forced to go back in and live with my family. I lived in the back of the house in a tent for a bit. But comedy started going really well. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of, and I'll say this, the universe is having me relive my trauma and forcing me to actually deal with it. Whether or not I'm just saying that's like a metaphorical sense. I don't believe the universe has a guide, but it was through that I had to deal with my mom, deal with my younger sister, who would have the same fits of rage that my mom would have, almost where it's a blackout. She'd just scream and yell for hours. And when her kids got taken away, I left and I was in Montreal, but then moved back to help them. And this crazy, I almost like saying that this is like the medical diagnosed term is almost minimizing the fact that this guy wasn't conscious about what he was doing, but he intentionally gave his drug to my younger sister's kid and tried to kill them and admitted to it. So those kids are in a better place now. No, they're not dead.
Jesus Christ.
They got adopted.
That was well done. That was very well done.
Oh, that sounded so like nonchalant. Okay, the kids are dead.
They're in a better place now.
That was a fucking killer in a great way. I don't know. That was hilarious.
Okay.
Oh my god, the tension.
Cut it with a knife.
I'm back at a good level.
Yeah, I'm back. We're good.
Okay. So he would damage the try to break in the house, break the car windshield, all this kind of stuff. And then because I was there as like level-headed guy, I thought one, I wanted to make sure I could live there, but two, it's like I didn't want this guy around here.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening is that when I was walking back from a mic, he jumped me and started punching me, and I lost consciousness. And at the same it's hard to remember, but based on like what people were saying, so he then, when I screamed for help, he started choking me. And I thought in that moment I was going to die. I have a scar now on my eye. And this is a guy who's previously been arrested so many times, and he was let out for nothing. They just put him in put him in a halfway house for 2 weeks. And I have lifelong just PTSD from this.
Of course.
But the thing that happened though is there was no when I kind of thought I was gonna die. There was no light. There was no like there was nothing like that. And it's a weird thing to just kind of realize in my life that that's happening. But at the same time, I think is fuck, if I would have seen the light, or if I would have heard the decrees or something like that, and it could have just changed it where I could have also just boom right back in it.
Yeah.
Drawn you back in. Yeah.
Which is a phenomenon that people say. I mean, people experience that.
Yes.
I almost a year ago today, I had an accident at work that I lost consciousness and had to go to the hospital, blah, blah, blah. But what you just described, like, one, just personally, I can connect with you on that in a sense that like there's an undescribable feeling of losing the consciousness, coming back to it. One, it's not that there was darkness. It was the same thing as thinking about before you were born. You know, there's just a time that I remember, and there's another time, and then there's a space. And when I visualize that timeline, it's black. But like, but the PTSD from that, like, I recognize that, man. I don't know. I wasn't prepared to acknowledge that, but I didn't want to let it pass without feeling the connection on that. Like that has taken me a very long time. I had a phase where I just would check my pulse constantly because I was like, something's wrong. I would just get horrible anxiety. That I call it a phase because it hasn't happened in like 2 weeks. You know, I'm sorry to hear that, man.
It's
How long ago did that happen with him?
maybe like 4 years ago.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
the only reason why he ended up being in jail for so long is because of the COVID. Like
Oh,
and I really like I look on it and this is where when I had to give a victim impact statement, so they kept dragging me to court. So this is kind of just going to give more of an idea of a victim of any sort of crime, what happens.
Right.
So is that luckily enough this was Zoom, so I didn't have to keep going to the courthouse. Where if you see they do a court thing just to set up another court date. It's so dumb.
Right.
But they're like, the judge was basically said, okay, I'm inclined to agree with the defense that, just some medical treatment, all that kind of stuff. And then he says, but of course I want to hear from the victim and his impact. It's like, no, you just said you were making up your mind and leaning towards letting him out without even hearing how this has changed my life.
No, sure.
And what this means is that if you're a victim of anything, you're dragged through that again and again from a judge for probably no fault of their own is just numb to it.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a process that gives so much money for punishment, but nothing to making sure it doesn't impact the victim of the crime for the rest of their life.
Right.
So I think if it costs $100,000 to punish that person, you should be spending the same amount of time to make sure it doesn't ruin the life of the other person.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so that judge got, 50 other cases on the docket that day. They're really not thinking about you at all. Whereas you're having to relive this trauma every time this happens. And that's impacting your ability to heal and become mentally healthy.
And what are they doing to remedy the situation? Just something punitive. So it's just, what can I do to this guy? You're not even a thought of the,
my cell phone broke. They're like, you could have some money from the cell phone broke. And then they're like, I kept trying to get therapy. And then they're like, okay. And then it never got to where I could even get to the therapist part because there's so much crime doesn't stop. Like it keeps going, but it's just like, it's so much like people know that the justice system sometimes doesn't work, but it's one thing to actually realize that there was nothing here.
Yeah.
I got nothing out. I didn't get money out of it. I couldn't not go to, I had to go to work. Then I had to try to explain what's going on. So all this kind of stuff happened. And the worst, and I got back on stage 2 days later just to joke about it. But the Joker movie just came out.
Oh, fantastic timing.
So people thought I was talking about the joke. It's like, this actually happened to me. But then I thought in my mind that I have to now justify, I'm not going to get a gun and take, I'm not trying to do that. But it's like, someone told me, don't make jokes about that ever so. It's like, no, it happened to me.
Yeah.
Right. This is my personal trauma. God damn it.
This is not a Joaquin Phoenix reference.
No.
God.
Which he was in cults.
I know. We talked about that. We opened a show about that a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. I forgot about man. Well, speaking of cults, we've talked about the first two, and the title is 3 Cults Walk Into a Bar.
Yeah.
Is the third one something that, okay, I got all the cults out of me, and then whoopsies, something happened by accident. It is a new cult, or was it again?
I slipped and fell in a cult.
Yeah.
This is it's funny because my dad lives. He's still kind of a part of it. This is called the Ideal Society, and this one is in Canada, in Jaffrey, and I lived on it after I was in Montana, and my mom would, because I hated being in high school. I was bullied, all this kind of stuff. I was dealing with all of this, but then my dad with the new mom and brother, I thought we're just going to move to Canada and leave me there. like with my mom. I thought that was just going to be what was happening. And I thought, because I already really believed in my mind that like I was like an outsider and I was getting in the way of his new family, which my stepmom she was really good at dealing with us because we weren't taught all this kind of stuff like cleanliness, all this kind of stuff. But what it felt like is I'll go and leave the cupboards open and we're like, I felt like a ghost. It's like, who let these cupboards open? And it's like, but what happened is because of this, my mom would yell at me and tell us and guilt trip us saying that she has arm pain and we're going to give her a heart attack. And going through all of this is that I ended up attempting suicide because I thought I was going to have to live with my mom, didn't know what to do. And my dad ended up then saying that I could go and live with him while he builds his house in Canada.
Wow.
So it's something where I wasn't sure whether or not I wanted to share in my one-man show. I actually don't have that in my one-man show because of just the judgment I feel around suicide. I don't think it's as openly talked about, especially in music, as it was in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
But this cult called Ideal Society, Canada was supposed to be my ticket to being a normal kid.
Okay.
Because he talked about being there. I wasn't sure if it was ever going to materialize. He kept being like, we're going to move this year. And I kept thinking I wouldn't have to deal with anything else in Montana. Then when I finally got there, then I'm dealing with, it's a French cult. The leader doesn't even live there. He's dead. The way dinners would work is that we would sit there in silence and can't talk until the leader comes in, sits down, starts eating, and if they talk, then we can talk. So, and then a guy with gangrene taught me how to use Windows XP.
Gangrene, Windows XP. Okay.
It's
Do not
a
expect
smell.
those two words to be in the same sentence.
Yeah, because and then I like
Adlib sucks.
they dress like you think cult members dress.
Okay. A lot of linen and sandals.
Lots of flowers.
Yeah.
So then they blend in
Very
the
flowing.
garden.
Yeah.
And I would get bullied by a rooster.
Because the hen came first, man. That's why.
Because roosters are very aggressive and they're scary.
Territorial, yes.
And I just didn't like none of this is fun, but I ended up somehow in a private school as like a charity case in Fernie. But then they're like, which is 30 miles outside of Jaffrey, which is in British Columbia.
Okay.
And then I found myself trying to explain to people why I'm not in the cult. I'm just living there.
Oh, that's fantastic. Wow.
Right.
But I was very open to, my classmates were very nice. I was very open to what I went through with them.
Is this where Class Clown kind of started to shine, or was that
I was already a class clown in Montana, but it kind of, I wasn't necessarily funny, but 1 out of 100 jokes would work, and that I would remember that one.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
That's all you need.
the smaller class, they had to keep me there because they needed the funding for the school because it was a private school, not enough kids in the class.
Yeah,
so it kind of was
too, but I'm pretty sure I had to repeat kindergarten, but that's fine.
I repeated a lot of grades, and then I didn't even graduate.
Awesome.
How old were you when this happened? When you moved to your dad's in Canada with the whole new cult?
Around 14, I think.
Okay. Oh, great time! Wow, peak puberty. Like, is that? I think that.
Yeah, pretty much. It's raging. Those hormones are raging, man. Yeah, for sure. All right, and so not to dwell on it too long, but so you attempted suicide prior to that, yeah? So you're like 13. Okay, all right. I think we talk about suicide on the show relatively openly. All of our lives have been impacted by it on one level or another. And I think it's just really important to like normalize having that conversation. And we got to get this stuff out of the corners and the shadows and the cobwebs, right? It's got to be in the open so we can deal with it and we can address it and be healthy. So I think it's important we talk about it. So I appreciate you being willing to share that with us.
Well, now kind of the fact that my brain decided that it's important now to talk about. Yeah. I was hesitant about putting in my show. Now I think I'm going to put in my show, which is now
awesome.
I like hearing
that. I like hearing
you
that.
Handle it well, and you'll do something like you said with the that when you
siblings
earlier with the siblings,
yeah. You'll cut the tension eventually,
and it'll be something intentional. It'll be beautiful. So
yeah. I have one other question. So you talked a little bit about sort of, I don't know if you would describe your upbringing as sort of like feral, but you were kind of allowed to run around a little bit and do your own thing. Are there still situations you find yourself in socially where you're like, I don't know what to do here. Like, where do I put my hand? Which fork am I supposed to eat my salad with? Do you still find that, or are you kind of adjusted at this point?
I feel like I'm always being watched. It could be because I listen to a lot of Alex Jones.
That will do it.
But I almost feel I feel like in social situations, I learned a lot of stuff from movies, not my parents.
Okay.
So I feel like I'm always
wait. What were the staples? What movies?
Yeah, what movies?
Like Batman or no? You're like 2000. So
like American Pie or
American Beauty.
American Beauty, that too.
What were the staples and go-tos?
I mean,
I love those movies that raised us. That's kind of what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Fletch.
Okay. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't watch a lot of horror, which is weird, but now it's my favorite genre. Nice. Like anything that was like inspiring, that kind of comedies I loved. I went to the movies a lot, so it'd be like if I'm trust. It's so fun because all I'm thinking about is movies I just watched.
Yeah.
And so I really think about a movie that I loved but hated now.
Forrest
Gump. I can't think
Bueller's Day Off.
That's totally fine.
That's totally fine.
I
think there are a lot of kids that are sort of in our generation ish who maybe didn't have the trauma that you've dealt with, but who sort of the TV was their parent or their adult for a lot of their life. Like they kind of came home, turned on the cartoons, kind of were on their own.
I think from like Gen X on, there's been that version of
make yourself a pizza pocket and watch some daytime TV, like whatever.
Alan has pizza pockets. We're going to his house.
Because of course it'd be like Borat I loved.
Sure.
Then it would be I watch a lot of late night. Then I watch Prison Break. All this.
Oh, nice.
And this I don't put in my one-man show, but Bill Maher's movie Religious.
Yeah.
Religiosity.
Yeah. How does that speak to you?
Yes.
That one helped me a lot.
Okay.
In the sense that I didn't, because it's hard to just internet didn't exist. It didn't exist.
Right.
So it was nice to see someone else saying stuff against religion and against what I was trying to. Because there wasn't much of any of that because there wasn't the internet. There was what was on network TV.
Right.
And
what was in your environment, your silo, was definitely not that.
That's honestly, that's remarkable that like this all happened to you prior to like 13 and 14 years old, man. Like, wow.
I couldn't watch rated R movies, so I had to be like, but
were you allowed to read them?
What?
Were you allowed to read them? Rated R movies, like the book based on the movie?
No,
I had a loophole when I was a kid because I wasn't allowed to watch them either. I could go to the library and I could get the book and read the book about them.
You can imagine something infinitely more horrifying.
Yes. I didn't want to be a nerd.
Oh, jeez. Thanks, man.
No. What I mean by that is, in the early 2000s movies, a kid that read was a kid that was bullied, and that was a trope. I wasn't.
You're not wrong. That's why I like to fly the Navigator, actually.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it was funny. Then my mom dragged us to Passion of the Christ, which was torture porn for Catholics.
Yeah.
And that terrorized me. And I'm like, oh, I can't watch Crank with Jason Statham, but I can watch a guy get just didn't make sense.
If you haven't made it to Crank 2 yet, I highly recommend it.
It's
It's a
worth
decent
it.
sequel. Yeah. And someday there'll be a third. But. What was well, you mentioned a French cult. It didn't happen to be the one where the guy said they cloned a person in 2000, was it?
I don't think so.
Okay, that would have been wild. What was the Heaven's Gate like on your radar when that happened, or were they like, that's a cult, like we're the truth? Like, I don't.
None of that kind of stuff at all was in my radar until I got more comfortable with even seeing cults and stuff like that and religion.
Were there aliens? Like in the
they believe there was aliens.
Nice.
Wait, we're on the third one. It's so I don't know if it's because I lived on it or because it doesn't have the same sort of trauma in my life. But I oddly almost feel bad about calling the third one a cult.
It didn't inflict as much trauma on you,
right?
Yeah,
because there's people living on in their lives and there's
right.
Yeah,
it is because you have to agree with whatever they believe in order to live on
dogma,
it, and there's a leader that isn't even alive anymore. But their basic aspects of getting back to land, all this kind of stuff, that's fantastic. But I also was the English-speaking teenager. Did I see the other side of it? I don't know. And that's the thing, is like, as far as I could tell, it's a cult to me, but it's almost like this, like a trauma Olympics. It's about whether or not me calling it the third cult, but Uriah. Come on. It was 2.5 at best.
Right. This
Like,
is yeah.
that's just me manifesting and trying to, like, again, not take ownership over my life by thinking, oh, that other person's gonna disagree with you, Uriah. Just say it's 2. But
gotta one up it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What it in some sense did well. First of all, so was everybody there like Quebecois, or were they like French people that moved there? They all spoke French there.
Mixture of both. So yeah, Quebecois and then just from France.
Wow. Okay. Last time I checked, it's the Crown, not the French that have Canadian. So they like changed citizenship to move to Canada for this cult.
Basically, yeah.
Long term. Yeah. So was that one a little different? Was it more of like a voluntary society? Like.
Yeah. If you've seen Midsummer,
yeah, well,
besides like people jumping off and dying, the way they ate, very similar to the way they all eat at once, very similar to it.
Yeah.
And the weird power dynamic with the guide, you can't say anything until they say something, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we'd be remiss if I didn't address that. I've heard tell that there was a major oil spill that got covered up by one of these organizations.
Yeah, a huge oil spill in pristine landscape that goes into the Yellowstone National River, the river there, and they try to hide it. And there was just incredibly lax laws on the environment. And there was a fire, and they said they decreed the flames away. But I thought it probably was
decreed the flames away. Okay.
I thought it was. Sorry. I think it was the firefighters. Yeah, we got the angels to call the fire department.
It is the absurdity of it that's almost unimaginable. Yeah. Would you consider yourself to be an atheist currently?
I have just recently now dabbled in listening to some atheist kind of stuff, but I think it's like, I don't believe there's a God. I don't believe anything, but I think there's almost like a connotation that goes around atheists that would make me sound like an asshole, just because the way,
it's hard to be. I mean, how could you be so certain, right? Like that's kind of how. I mean, I guess that's agnostic, right? But even that, it's like, yeah, have fun. That's like being like, oh, I'm not conservative or liberal. I'm a classical liberal. Let me tell you something about political theory. I'm sure you'd rather talk about that at this party. It's like, oh boy, So
I mean, I think so. There is like a form of atheism that's militant, and I've never identified with that. But there's also like an almost evangelical form of atheism as well, which I find annoying. Like somebody trying to proselytize somebody else. Like if that's the way you feel, fine, but you don't need to like try and convert the rest of the world. Like do your thing, right? But I have found it like over the years, and Dustin's been on this journey with me, is like trying to find like ground to stand on from a moral perspective and still be realistic about the way I what I believe the world is. And that took quite a while for me, man. It's so I'm not surprised that you're still on that journey. So I wish you the best of luck with that.
That being said, I think it's more if I get in an argument with someone, I just don't want them to have to put a label on me to be like, oh,
Sure.
you're that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually so. Most of the time, this show's about politics and news and current events, and that's pretty much us on that.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It took me forever to just be like, you know what? People are gonna hate me for being an independent. I'm probably gonna agree with you on everything you. I just don't want to be. I don't want to be your things.
I've also never read the Bible, and I'm not going to.
Right.
I think I don't want a book that was written fucking 5,000 years ago telling me how to live my life now. And if it wasn't for that, there would be no morality. It's just like, no one talks like this anymore. This is like someone started a diary and it got out of control.
Right.
So there was no tradition of like reading verse scripture in these cults that you were in?
And their own stuff, because they had their own stuff to sell.
So that was understood that it was built on that structure, but they didn't talk about it. It was just like, that's just over there.
God hadn't spoken to Mrs. Prophet yet. Before God had spoken to these.
Got the new shit over here. Yeah.
Granted, Mark Lyle Prophet did get kicked out of the college he was at because he wouldn't stop reading the Bible during lunch.
Weird fun fact.
So aggressively to get kicked out of college.
He's over there reading the Bible aggressively. What the fuck?
Wow. That's fact of the show. Show fact.
Yeah, that's show fact. That's win you trivia night someday.
One thing would be is like, okay, if religion does all this good, like churches do all this good, why aren't if they do all this good, homeless people would always be hanging out in front of them. They hang out in front of 7-Elevens and city program stuff and soup kitchens because churches don't do anything. When I see churches, I see an ample amount of space that could house everyone and solve so many problems, and the money that they have can solve everything.
Yeah. Well, but how are you going to do that without a jet, though? Gotta fly there where the people are.
You're not wrong, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you, dude. Thank you so much for coming on the show and being really open and willing to talk about all of these subjects. Yeah, man, it's been awesome having you.
Thank you.
What's the show again?
It's three cults walk into a bar. May 11th, Lyric Hyperion Theater. I'm this is gonna sound like I'm 25% sold on my tickets already. That's not a brag, but it's just like it's resonating with people, and people like to wait at the last moment to get a ticket. Yeah. I want to try to run this show multiple times. So if you are in LA and think you want to go to it, it would mean the world to me.
Hell yeah. Let's sell those tickets. We can take the show on the road, baby.
We do have a lot of people in LA. Yes, take the show on the road. Yes.
Yeah.
I have a fantasy of like Brido and everybody that he talks to occasionally doing a show, doing a small tour. Now I put that out there. Now you have to, Brido. Your fans are saying but yeah, dude, I'd love to see you give a part of this.
Manifested it into the world. What about your socials? Where can people find you?
Uriah Jokes. That's URIAH and Jokes. YouTube Uriah Wesman, and that's it. I don't fuck with Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever it's called. I've got time to try to start another following somewhere else. I got
and they're just going to compete for your attention. So now you're spending more time on TikTok.
Yeah.
Sucking you dry. All right. Well, what's the stupidest thing you've ever done? We asked.
Wait, two things before we do that, because I'll forget. I'll get too distracted. Can you give us? We'll cut this and put it at the beginning of the show. Can you say, "Hi, this is Uriah Wesman, and I never listened to None Taken," or ad lib anything as long as you say your name and you never listened to None Taken.
Hey, I'm Uriah Wesman and None Taken. No, I didn't just try to clarify that I didn't try to insult you and saying None Taken. It's a podcast. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, no, it's okay. I didn't. I almost said, like, have you listened to it?
I listened to some clips. I tried to figure out what I was getting into before.
Wait, hold
Granted,
on. No, you're supposed to say I never listened to None Taken.
Oh, So I was okay. Sorry.
Wait, you can say it now.
He's got it now. He's got it.
I got it.
You can just say it. I never listened.
Hey, I'm Uriah Wesman. I've never listened to None Taken.
That's great too.
Perfect. Now, what's the stupidest thing you've ever done that you can recall? Just the first thing that kind of pops in your head.
Because none of this other stuff, like that shit happened to you.
Yeah, that was just
like something that you're
you
like
happened to be there.
Yeah.
You had to have agency in this one.
Is now the time where I make the guest feel comfortable where I talk about shooting my wetsuit or no?
I think he almost had something.
Okay.
I'm thinking about one thing, but it's a story, so it's too long. And I'm thinking about another thing, it's a story as well. The stupidest thing I ever did was go to city council. I went there multiple times, but the third time I went there is to declare my candidacy. And I gave them a PowerPoint presentation that we were going to revitalize Santa Barbara by turning a sanctuary into a meerkat sanctuary. Lower the drinking age to 16.
Love it. Okay.
And open up 3 In-N-Outs.
I mean, this is a good platform. I can get behind this. Where do I vote? Where do I sign up?
And what I did not know is that I accidentally touched a nerve at city council because there was a right-wing newspaper that hid the fact that their son got a DUI and got in an accident. So they asked them to not put that in the paper. And she also was the person that spearheaded getting meerkats in the zoo in Santa Barbara.
Oh my God.
So I accidentally touched the nerve because I wonder why everyone was laughing so much, because I'm like, this is kind of funny, but that would
laughing like for like personal reasons, right? Like, yeah.
And I stopped my candidacy when I realized that you have to start divulging your tax documents and stuff. I'm like, I don't think I want people peeking into my finance. I could barely read and write. Fuck.
When was this?
Santa Barbara.
When was this?
Oh, when?
4 or 5 years ago.
Fantastic.
It's on my YouTube channel. I went there 4 different times, and I was shut down by the conservative guy, but I did use the slide whistle.
Did you just pull meerkats out of your ass? Like did you have a personal like
they were in the PowerPoint?
Oh, I think meerkats are hilarious. They're just,
right, sure, yes. Oh, that's great as a punchline, but like you happened to touch that nerve.
That was just his thing.
And they thought I was being a genius.
Yeah.
You just stumbled into it. Oh man, Uriah Wesman. This man has lived a life, people.
Yeah.
This man has lived a life.
That's got to be a good show, man. Seriously.
Yeah.
I wish I was fucking in LA. Alan, drive down there.
I might.
All right.
Yeah, that'd be a blast.
All right, man. Thanks for
All right,
coming.
man. Yeah, thanks for coming on the show, bro.
It
was a blast. Thanks.
Cheers.
All right, cheers.
Alan.
Yes.
Let's do the movie thing. I wait, hold on. Sorry. I'm so bad at this when like the show stops.
Do I hit end now?
Yeah, I don't edit the video, but
yeah, you can roll out whenever you like, dude. Again, it was a blast having you. Thanks so much for doing the show. We appreciate it.
Okay. All
Cheers.
right,
Have a good night, man.
That was fun, man.
Dude, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about what you've been watching? We're not going to talk about it till next week, and we'll be watching other things.
Oh shit, I didn't.
No, just think about it. I watched Generation V.
That's the new Boys thing on Prime.
Yeah, it was a spinoff of The Boys, and the new season of The Boys is coming up, and they just got picked up for a 5th season. Great timing. They always touch a fucking nerve politically. I am not looking forward to living in America where they are satirizing current events.
Especially as they begin to unfold this summer.
It's terrifying. But if you are watching season 4 of The Boys, you need to watch Generation V. It's like season 3.5. Things are interconnected.
Okay. Yeah, so I know there's a movie. I was going to watch it tonight after the show. Actually, I haven't watched it yet, so I won't talk about that. I watched some episodes of Louder Milk on Netflix.
Is it good? I feel like I watched the first episode and couldn't get.
I found it funny. I'm like 4 or 5 episodes in. It's not.
Is it high def? It feels like it's been out forever. Like, did it start before high def?
No, it's high def.
Okay, all right. It's got that guy in it from is it Livingston. Is that his name?
That sounds right.
Yeah, whatever. Don't worry about it.
Where's it at?
It's on Netflix, Hulu?
Yeah, it's on Netflix. I was just trying to see if there was a shit. Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's what's the other thing I've been watching? Loudermilk came out in it's been out 2017, 2020.
Oh,
So
that's
it's been out for a few years.
that's honestly really recent compared to what
Pretty
I've
recent, yeah. Anyways, yeah, it's got the guy, what's his name? Yeah, Ron Livingston. Yeah, he's the main character.
Oh.
You called it, nailed it. Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. So I don't know. I think I saw some clips somewhere, and I was like, oh, I should check that out.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, he's like awkward in public, and there's like
yes,
sort of awkward monologues, but I'm sure it fits in the course of the show, right?
Yeah, very much so, very much so. So I'll have more to talk about next week. But yeah,
okay. Cool.
All right.
Did you know that I was once briefly the youngest man on Earth?
I mean,
yes,
technically.
You get it. All right, man. Talk to you later.
Cheers.
Cheers. It's me. Babe, it's not even 9 o'clock. Oh, I was chatting with our guest. Cheers.